We know that exercise is one of the best things that you can do if you have osteoarthritis. However, it's often easier said than done. So in today's video, I'm going to take you through 7 things that you need to make sure you're doing when you complete your program so that you're doing it properly. And make sure you stay tuned until the very end, because if you do know how to optimize your exercise program, you're much more likely to see a reduction in your pain. And we're going to start right now. The first thing you have to do before you even start your exercise program is be very honest with yourself and your therapist about how much time you have to dedicate to this new program. We all lead very busy lifestyles, whether it's work or looking after children or grandchildren, and thinking about trying to spare an extra half an hour each day to do some exercise can often be quite daunting. One of the biggest barriers to adherence to exercise is people feeling overwhelmed by the amount of exercise they have because they just don't feel they have the time to do it. So right from the very beginning of your treatment, have a very open discussion with your therapist about how much time you can dedicate to this new program. It might be daily, 3 times a week, or once a week, and it might be 15 minutes, half an hour, or an hour. But right from the very beginning, you both need to be singing off the same hymn sheet so that your therapist can design a program that is appropriate for the amount of time that you have. The second thing that you need to do to optimize your exercise is do them consistently. Essentially, what we're trying to do is stress your system, whether it is the joint itself or the soft tissues around the joint. We might be trying to get the joint more mobile, or we might be trying to strengthen the muscles that support the joint to offload the joint slightly. But the only way that we will stimulate change in the muscles and the joint is if we stress them consistently. Your body will not change or adapt very much if you do the exercise one day and then do them again a week later or the week after that. You need to be doing them a few times a week so you're getting that consistent stress, which will then lead to that adaptation over time. And that leads us beautifully onto point number 3, which is progression. Now, we've mentioned that we're trying to stress your system. And as your system adapts and changes, you will find the exercises that you started doing initially easier. And that is a great sign that your body is adapting and changing. But if you keep then putting it under the same degree of stress, then you will kind of maintain what you've achieved, but you won't continue that progression. And we can do this by making your exercises gradually harder over the weeks, by working through more range of movement, by lifting more load, and by doing more reps and sets. But essentially, your exercise program should look very different at week 6 and 8 to what it looked like in week 1 and 2. The fourth point to make is duration. Have you been doing your exercise program for a long enough period of time for us to actually expect any changes to have occurred? Now, we don't go to the gym, pump a few weights, and then wake up the next day like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Our bodies just don't change that quickly. I'm interrupting just for a second to say if you would like to know more about osteoarthritis and all other things pain and rehabilitation, hit that subscribe button so you get notified every time I release a new video, which I do every single week. Thank you very much for watching and enjoy the rest of this one. Now, all too often we see people doing an exercise program for a few weeks, and then because they haven't seen or felt any changes in their symptoms or reduction in their pain, then they give up because they've got despondent that nothing's happening or the exercises aren't working. Now, it's important to note that they will not work in a few weeks. You need to give your body time to adapt and change, and we're really looking for a 3 to 6 month period of consistent rehab. Point number 5 I'm going to make in order to optimize your exercise program is difficulty. You should find the exercises challenging. We've already mentioned that we're trying to stress the system. You will not stress the system if you find the exercises quite easy. Now, I do think this is probably the one that's most difficult to manage, particularly if you're doing the exercises by yourself. You may not know how much to push into the pain, or you may not want to push yourself too hard because you don't want to make the pain any worse. So what I would say is the rule of thumb generally is it is fine and safe to work into tolerable levels of discomfort. Now, pain is very subjective, but on that 0 to 10 scale, 10 being the worst pain imaginable, it is fine to work into a 3 or 4 out of 10. Now, what should happen is you should be achy for a day or two afterwards, and that is a good sign that you have stressed your system enough. But what should happen is that should settle down after a 24 or 48 hour period, and you should be able to continue going about your daily routine as normal. If, however, your pain increases significantly for a 3 or 4 day period or longer, that's not a sign that you've done any damage. It's just a sign that you've probably done a little bit too much too soon. If this does happen, you need to continue with the rehab, but you might have a few days off and go back at a lower level. So you may do less repetitions, less sets, less load, or you might work through less range of movement. But the point is, with number 5, you need to make sure that you are challenging your muscles. You should feel achy after, you might feel hot, sweaty and flushed. You might even feel a bit breathless, but this is all a good sign. And that leads us nicely onto point number 6, which is go easy early. Now, there is nothing that is going to want to make you do your exercise program less than doing your program for the first time and it making your symptoms a lot worse. And we are at the highest risk of that happening the first few times you try your exercise program. If you aren't somebody that is used to doing exercise and the muscles and soft tissues around the joint are deconditioned and the joint itself has become sensitized because you've had pain for a while, then things do need to be built up very slowly and very gradually to avoid this flare up. The message would be try and err on the side of caution the first few times. Give your body time to adapt and change. Give yourself time to monitor how your symptoms respond. And if they respond well and the exercises don't flare things up, then you can progress. It's much better to do things this way than doing too much too soon, going from 0 to 100 and then flaring things up on day 1. Now, last but not least, point number 7 is goals. Now, it can be a long-term goal or multiple short-term goals. But it's really important that at the very beginning of the exercise program, we put some goals in place, and there are a number of different reasons for this. The first reason is between you and the therapist, you need to know and design a program. And the only way that you can do this is if you have an idea of what you're working towards. So for example, if you come to see me and you have knee pain and you tell me that you want to use the stairs better because they're a problem at the moment, then I need to design a program for you that is going to mimic or replicate similar movements to using the stairs in order to get you back to doing that. Similarly, if you have hip pain and you want to get out of a chair, we have to design a program that is going to help you get better at getting out of a chair. The second reason is motivation. Goals can be really helpful in motivating you to continue doing your program. If you try and pick something that is meaningful to you and personal to you, it might be playing with your grandchildren on the floor, it might be going for a walk with your dog, then you're much more likely to work hard at your program and be focused on what you're trying to achieve. If you don't have a goal in place, it can feel like you're just going through the motions and it can be quite demotivating. And the third reason is that goals are really helpful to monitor your progression and your improvement. If you set yourself a few short-term goals that again are meaningful for you and you start to achieve them, then that is going to feed back in to the motivation and make you more adherent to your program. Now, just before I finish up and we're on the topic of goals, it is really important that you do focus on functional, meaningful goals and do not make your goals around the pain. The reason for this is because if you do have a long-term condition like arthritis, it's very common to have flare-ups, for the pain to improve slowly, and whilst you're doing your rehab program, to still experience pain a few months down the line. And if you are still in pain in a few months' time, that can really decrease your motivation, it can make you feel frustrated, fed up, and like you're not getting anywhere. Whereas if you focused on functional tasks like increasing the amount of stairs you can do, increasing the amount of distance that you can walk, even if in 2 or 3 months' time those tasks are still uncomfortable, if you've gone from walking 15 minutes to half an hour, you can see that you're still improving and you're still heading in the right direction. Thank you for watching. I hope you found today's video useful. I've popped some useful links in the description below the video to help you manage your arthritis better at home, and I'd love to hear from you. So let me know which point from today's video you're going to use to help you with your exercise program. If you are new to the channel, then do hit that subscribe button so you get notified every time I release a new video, which I do every single week. And if you're feeling really generous, then please do give us a thumbs up whilst you're there. If you have found this video useful, you may also like the video that I have put together on hip arthritis exercises, and there is a whole playlist on the channel to help you manage your arthritis better at home. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, I will see you again very soon.